we are back. It is back with Behind the Bikini, and we are now on episode 66, going into the holiday season, coming up with Thanksgiving this week. So before we get into today's topic, like, comment, subscribe, hit the buttons wherever they are. And thank you so much for all the good feedback on the last few episodes. Everybody really loved the last one. We're getting a lot of really great comments and feedback on that. So that was good. I think it's good to hear from people who are just starting out in this whole competition journey and what they go through, and just knowing that you're not alone, that kind of thing. So if you haven't watched it yet, go back and watch episode 65 with Samantha. Let us know what you think. And today, because it's Thanksgiving week, we are going to talk about a few things that we are thankful for this past year, but also we're going to give you strategies to tackle the holiday, really. So before we do that, though, we haven't talked about ourselves in a few weeks. So how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Let's just talk all about us.
Let's just talk about us. We're the most important thing here. That's it.
I'm good. I'm really good. Since Drew's birthday trip, the beginning of November, I've been home, so it's been sweet. I haven't seen Drew in a week, though. He left last Wednesday to go to a show in Fort Lauderdale, and then he just stayed with his parents. So that's been really strange, just kind of being home, but not, seeing Drew. And then I fly out tomorrow to Tampa to get my hair done and visit with my best friend and see my grandma and check on the gym. I'm only there for like 2 days. And then my dad and I together will drive to Miami and meet up with Drew and his family on Wednesday. So, and to spend the holiday. So I'm really looking forward to it. I have not really gotten to spend time with my dad in a really long time. He just kind of lets me do my thing when I'm competing and is understanding of that. So he kind of likes to hang out with me when I'm not competing, which I totally respect. So it'll be good to spend some good time with him. I kind of did it to where I could get 4 hours in the car with him alone before like everyone, I was with everybody. So physique wise and reverse wise, everything is going really great. I mentioned on the podcast a couple of times ago, Shawn and I were just talking about this, that we ended up cutting my thyroid medication in half. We just thought it was a little bit too high, and I wasn't growing, or I did not grow as much last year as we had liked to. And Drew has had a suspicion that my thyroid was high, so we ran some labs and it was. And I've been sleeping really well, like really, really well. A lot deeper sleep, longer sleep. I feel really good. I was really nervous because in the past when we've adjusted my thyroid medication, I felt awful before I regulated again. But I was just telling Drew yesterday, like I feel amazing. I do think the cold plunge has something to do with that and helping like my thyroid levels stay a little bit higher and regulate. So I'm on like a really specific cold plunge routine as well with my recovery. So feeling really good. Weight's pretty stable. My weight's like kind of just slowly going up. So I've told Jamie the last couple of check-ins, I haven't wanted to make any changes until I see like my body weight just kind of, stall. But I'm getting one free meal a week right now, and I have some like 500 flex calories, so plenty of flexibility. And this reverse, just like every other, is completely different. Like I'm really not food focused. I'm treating it just like I'm still in prep. I'm trying to stay on the leaner side because I'm kind of switching what I think I want to do next year. We're still talking about some things. So try to stay a little bit on the leaner side and just kind of take it one day at a time. The hard part is they haven't announced the Olympia for next year yet, when it's going to be.
That's weird.
It is weird. They usually do it like at Olympia weekend or the weekend after, and they haven't said anything yet. I know that they have a contract with Resorts World for 3 years, so this will be year 2. So I know they already have a location established. So it kind of makes it difficult, right? Like all of us, everybody, I know my athletes are like, when do they release the show schedule? We're all waiting. We're all waiting for those details so we can make some moves. So in the meantime, if the schedule's not out, we all just get to focus on our families and the holidays, and we'll get back to competing, late December, early January.
Right. Well, that's so interesting because I just talked about that with Dan yesterday. I was like, this is so weird. Usually we know when it is. I know that there was talks about them trying to move it back towards September. September in Vegas, though, is the busiest time of year, the busiest because of all the conventions and stuff. So I'm guessing like the pricing is probably the problem. Yeah. They're probably having issues, contract and negotiations. So let me tell you what, So since we're on this topic, we're planning for CCTS, right? So this is our 10th year. We've got a new location, all that kind of stuff. It has been the biggest headache dealing with the venue.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like I can't, like I'm not going to go into detail, but it is an everyday thing. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like I think about it all the time. Like I'm like, I would never want to promote shows. I would never want to do any of this kind of stuff because this is just crazy. It's like, just when you think you've got everything tied up, they're throwing another wrench. They throw in another thing. And I'm like,
with a bill attached to it.
Yeah, everything's got a bill attached to it. Everything. It's like we have to spend money if we want to bring in our own AV people. Like we have to give you money to bring in our own people. Like it's it's stupid shit. And I'm just like, and it literally like every corner that you go around, there's another fee. There's another fee. There's another this. There's another contract. There's another that. There's another this. And I'm just like, good God. And I really think it's gotten a lot worse since the whole COVID thing.
Oh, totally.
Because I think a lot of these hospitality hotels and stuff like that lost a lot of money during the pandemic. So now they're trying to make up for it and they're just gouging everywhere. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, oh my God. Like so for Olympia, just as a microcosm of this, like I stayed off site. I didn't stay at Resorts World. And, the final day I went into Resorts World, I had coffee with Rihanna and I went to Starbucks with her and my normal Americano was $8. And I was like, $8 for a coffee I normally spend $3 on? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
yeah. Nikki went and got like 4 pieces of sashimi at the sashimi or the sushi spot and it was $60.
Oh, it's just ridiculous. It gets to a point where it's just like, this is just gouging. This is not even like, how can you even justify that? Like for me, I was like, it's beans and water. Like, come on, man. I could have bought a whole bag of coffee for that. I was like, holy Jesus. Like,
it's funny because I hear now people after this Olympia where people were like, oh, it should be in Vegas. Like that's the spot. And I agree. Like I love it in Vegas. Don't get me wrong. I love the vibe. But now after this year's Vegas, people are like, oh, it should go back to Orlando. It's more convenient. It's cheaper.
Less expensive. Like,
yeah.
It's nuts,
I mean, they all have their pros and cons. Like there's never going to be like a perfect scenario, but obviously like, especially for the athletes and there with commentary and stuff that have to be there for 5-6 days in a row. Like, it gets very expensive.
Very. I'm like, thank God I stayed off site. I just, like I said, I stayed off site because I had points. So I was like, well, fuck it. I'll just get my hotel for free. Then I don't have to spending money on it. Thank God. I was like, holy shit. I would have walked out of there just with food and coffee alone. My bill would have been $500 just for that. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is nuts.
And the Vegas hotels don't have microwaves because they're illegal for fire hazards. So the only reason they get them in there is because of like the shows and stuff, and they have to be in ballrooms. So it does not make it convenient to prep in Vegas. Like, Drew's a poker player, like loves to go to play poker. Now we're literally a 45-minute flight for him to go play. And he's like, you want to go play for the weekend? I'm like, no, because it's so inconvenient for me to make a meal when I'm prepping there, Yeah. It's difficult. They want you to eat their food.
Absolutely. The whole goal in Vegas is you stay in the casino and don't leave. That's it. They want you
no
there.
windows. You don't know what day it is, what time it is.
Nope. You're not leaving. You're hostage.
Yep.
Man, I was just like, but yeah, so anyway, so I was thinking about that. We were just talking about that last night. Because again, we're talking about CCTS stuff all the time. I'm like, I bet you anything they're having a hard time with contract negotiations with Vegas,
I'm sure.
So I can't imagine if we're having this kind of trouble here in DC, like I can't imagine what it is in Vegas, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know when that will come out. I mean, it's got to be like in the beginning of the year, like the rest of them.
They have to. They have to come out with dates.
Yeah.
I mean, they have
especially
to
for open bodybuilders. Like, it's easier for us bikini girls to get leans. It's not as simple for those guys, and they really, most of them only go like one show to get qualified because they can't stay lean that long. So it's got to come out at some point, especially if they're moving it earlier back to September.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. And I think with the pro schedule and all that stuff, that typically comes out right after nationals. So that's not anything new. Like we know that's not coming out until nationals is over. So that's usually the case.
Standard.
Yeah. Yeah. But the Olympia kind of has surprised me. Yeah, it has. Absolutely. I'm like, Okay. Well, I'm going to the Arnold.
I literally have my desk calendar out for next year. So like as like promoters and stuff are starting to release them on their social media, I'm just writing them all down just to try to get like an idea.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's antsy. Everybody wants to and I get it. Everybody wants to start, especially the girls that had been on the sidelines all year. Like they want to start getting their you know, schedule together. And I'm like, I don't know what it is. Hold on.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
With that though,
you're season, just a few weeks.
I was just gonna say this season's not over.
So, we're not done yet.
Yeah. So I'm 2 weeks out. So it's been weird because I'm basically reversing into this show. So I'm on 10 minutes of cardio a day. So there's a typo in my last week's check-in. So Jamie wanted me on 7.5K average steps. She put in 9.5K. So I was doing 9.5K. She's like, I don't understand your steps. I'm confused. She's like, I have you on 7.5. I said, no, you don't. I screenshot it. And I was like, here it is. She's like, oh, that's why the food's not sticking. I was like, yeah, okay, that's why. So just amazing how that much of a difference something that small can make. So Thursday we went to 7.5 and kept everything else the same. Thursday I started feeling a little bit weird. Friday morning my weight was up. Saturday morning my weight was up. I was like, oh my God, what's going on? Like we dropped the steps. All of a sudden I start gaining a pound a day. I'm like, no, this is not cool. I got my period. I was like, oh, there it is. Okay. So I haven't had a period since before Daytona.
You texted me last night and I was like, whoa, that's a doctor.
I was not expecting it at all. It's late. This is day like 70 something of my cycle. So I was like, oh, that just came out of nowhere. I was like, okay, I am in a lot of pain right now. Yesterday wasn't too bad. Like it was very light yesterday. It just started yesterday. But today it's like, oh, okay, all right, here we are.
Like day one.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, it's been 2 months since I've had it. So it's like all this backed up, like, okay, let's get it out now, you know? And, so I was surprised about that, but it makes sense because again, I've been reverse dieting. My calories are up to 2,300 calories a day. You know, I'm not doing a ton of cardio. My fats are really high. So it makes sense that my body would be like, oh, we're not dieting anymore. Let's get back to normal. You know what I mean? So that's good. It's a good thing. And it's a good thing that happened now because then when I'm on stage in 2 weeks, I mean, there's no chance of having it. And I always look my best when my period's over with, you know, like right that next week as I go into ovulation and all that stuff. So it's pretty much perfect.
Time that it comes, like normal time a month? Okay.
No, it's off by like a week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that.
That's my fear. Like if it starts like trying to regulate back, but I mean, probably not in 2 weeks when your show is. So.
It won't be in 2 weeks. No, it'll be fine. Even if it did, it would still be after that. It wouldn't be at the show. Yeah, it'd still be after that. So right now I'm just kind of trying to stay level because my weight went down today. Because again, like it's like, okay, the period started. So yeah. So now we're going to start getting back to normal. So I'm almost back to the weight I was on Thursday. So I was like, all right, well, this is just what it was. You know, I told you, I was like, I thought it was my almond butter or something because I was getting constipated and I was like, what is going on? Like I haven't had digestive problems at all for the last couple of months. What is the issue here? And so that's what it was. I'm like, all right, got it, cool. So like I got up this morning to do my normal morning posing and all that. I was just like, this just hurts. Like I still did it, but it was just like, it just fucking hurts. It just is what it is. I took a picture and I sent it to Jamie. I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm just gonna do this again when I don't feel like this because that's not even worth sending. I was like, probably just need to.
Hey, at least you tried.
Yeah,
you know?
I tried. I still did my posing practice regardless. I still did it, but it just sucked.
And that first cycle back after you haven't had it for a while, whether it's been years or it's been a couple of months, it's brutal, you know, because your body is just like, eject.
It is. And I'm just like, oh my God. Okay, got it. Understood. Yeah. So I took some ibuprofen before we got out of here so that it would hopefully, it started to kick in a couple of minutes ago. I'm starting to feel a little less crampy. So I'm like, okay, it's slowly getting in there. So, but other than that, I'm feeling really good. So it's like, you know, my weight has stayed steady all the way through. I'm just getting a little bit fuller, a little bit rounder. We've talked about this before. Like I've had to relax on my poses and things like that. So, you know, that's been good. As far as my posing is getting better. So now it's just like kind of fine tuning things. Like I just want to, my whole goal for this show is just, I want to be fuller and rounder and I want to fix some of the mistakes I made with my posing more than anything else. That's my goal. So, If I can do those things, I'll be happy, and then we'll see what happens as far as how everything plays out. And then based on that, I'll decide what I'm going to do next year. I'm probably going to just take a full, probably almost 2 years off, because in my world, I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to attempt to try to qualify for the Masters Olympia, what's the point in competing next year?
Correct. I just had this conversation with one of my Masters pros.
Yeah.
She wanted to come out next year, and I'm like, if your goal is to try to, qualify eventually for the Masters Olympia, it's really not worth coming out in the beginning half of this year. We might as well just grow, and then once the cutoff hits, then start coming out and hitting.
Yep. So I'll decide all that. So I've been working with Jamie for 4 years. So for the first year and a half, I didn't get on stage. And then from that point on, I've gotten on stage once or twice every year. You know what I mean? So I've taken a good, 6 to 8 months off or whatever, but that's still not a long time when you start thinking about it and you start thinking about making improvements. And I've still made good,
start to hit your stride.
Yeah. And I said that even this last year, I said it here on the podcast. I was like, I kind of don't want to start cutting right now because I'm starting to see the improvements come through. You know what I mean? So I was like, so this time around, I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? I'm just going to keep letting it ride, So that's the plan at that point, and we'll see what happens from there. So like I said, at this point, I'm just kind of zoning in. Last weekend was really my last big weekend when it came to shows for competitors because of Ben Weeder. I had Gabby on stage this weekend, and then I have a competitor on stage the same weekend that I'm on stage. But other than that, I don't have anybody else that's in prep until, for next year. So as far as that's concerned, that's over. The cool thing about that, though, is that the majority of my girls right now are either in a reverse diet phase or they're in a body recomp phase so that we can get them on stage in the spring. And they're all doing really, really well. The reverses are going very well. Every one of them, they're not having a hard time, none of those kinds of things, which I'm crossing my fingers that holds on, you know what I mean? Because I have a call with them every time they get off stage, and I'm like, okay, if we're going into reverse, I just want you to know what to expect. And so they're just ready for it, you know what I mean? And then they don't get caught by surprise when they're hungry all the time and all those kinds of things, you know what I mean? So I think just setting them up, and I almost want to say I over emphasize the fact it's going to be hard, so then that way, if it's not hard, it's a win, you know what I mean? So then it's a win if it's not hard, because I want them to know it's going to be difficult, it's not going to be easy. So I think they're better mentally prepared for it than anything else. So. Yeah.
And spending that 15, 20 minutes post-show on the phone with them saves you hours of heartache and back and forth conversation, because if you don't have that conversation with them, then they feel like they're crazy and they're bouncing over you like, Shawn, I ate all this food and I'm still hungry. They already know then at that point. So it saves you a little bit of time on the back end. It makes them feel a little bit more at peace too when things come up. And it's literally a 15 or 20 minute phone call. I wish that over communication happened a little bit more with coaches, because I do think that it would almost help them more. It would save them a little bit more time and, being inundated by more athletes with, less information, because they have more questions when they don't know what's happening to them.
Right. And so, a lot of my girls, I just started coaching this past year. So most of the girls I put on stage this year, I didn't do a full improvement season with them, right? Most of them, they went right into prep, or they were already in prep or whatever it might be. So now we're getting them all into improvement seasons, right? So now we're starting to focus on the nuances. Now we're starting to focus on the training format and all those kinds of things. So I give them goals straight out of the gate after they're done with their show, send me videos of you training, so then that way we can make sure that as we go into this improvement season, you're really training correctly. And I can't tell you, every one of them has sent me their videos. I'm like, you're doing this wrong and that wrong. I'm like, this is why you didn't grow. Every one of them. And I'm just like, okay, so we're going to fix this, all this kind of stuff. So it gives them something to look forward to as far as goals are concerned too, going into the off season. Because I think that's important as well. I think a lot of times girls just have nothing set in stone for them to move forward. Nothing for them to be focused on. So that's where they get in trouble too, and I'm like, no, we're going to focus on making sure that your training is correct now. We want you growing. And yeah, absolutely. It's amazing to me. It is amazing to me. I don't know why it's amazing to me, because I should have known this myself. No coach ever did this for me going through. They never asked me to see my form, none of that kind of stuff.
Now you see why though. Why?
Yeah.
because it takes us time.
Yeah, it takes time.
Like I tell the girls all the time, like the training footage takes me time. Like I don't just like watch it once. I watch it over and over, and I try to see like everything. And I understand why coaches necessarily don't do this, but I think that they're leaving big gains on the table for their athletes. And just like you, Shawn, like there's sometimes that the girls checking in and I'm like, you're not growing, and I don't understand why. And then they said training footage and I'm like, oh, here's why right here, you know. And it's just a very easy, simple fix if you look at it.
Yep. I had one of my girls, she's been with me since the spring, and her body hasn't changed at all. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, there's something going on here. Like you should be, and I don't say at all, but it should have been progressing more than what she has. So finally I got her to send me videos. I was like, okay, we're doing this. We got to fix this. She went and saw my guy that does my dry needling. She went and saw and got body work done. And he's like, you have hypermobility in every one of your joints. He's like, that's why you're not. He's like, He's like, that's why you're not progressing. That's why you're not getting, not seeing the gains that you want to see, because you just don't. You have that laxity in your joints, and you're not getting the tension that you need while you're lifting. So she has to correct everything, more so even than what I saw. All I saw was something was wrong. You know what I mean? He's able to pinpoint what it is she needs to fix, So it's just like, she went in thinking it was going to be an easy fix, and he's like, no, this is not an easy fix. It's just, and it's the way she was born. It's nothing wrong with anything.
Is harder to fix.
Yeah. He's like, it's nothing that she did wrong. It's nothing that she's training incorrectly, or she's doing what she thinks is right for her body. Her body. Yeah. It's just the way she was born, and we got to work on getting her in the correct spot. So, those kinds of things. And like, I'm like, send the training videos, because we can get you fixed, at least on the path to being fixed. If we can't pinpoint what's going on, like there's got to be something, there's got to be something that we're missing, so.
But also watching the training videos yourself, like I am still sending video to Drew right now for feedback, and I make sure that I watch my own sets once or twice before I send it to Drew. I'm not sending him my first set. I'm not sending him the worst set. I'm sending him the one that I'm like, I think this is what you want.
Yep.
Tell me, you know what I mean? And there's some athletes that they're sending me the same training footage every week with the same things wrong that I gave them last week. And I'm like, are you watching your own training footage to try to assess? Because that's the best way for you to learn as well. Kind of helping yourself a little bit more. Like, you should be able to visually see it, based off of the feedback that I give you one week. You should be able to go, oh, okay. Now I'm going to look for that in my video the next time this comes around. Like,
absolutely.
Videoing your own training footage week to week or every other week is like a really, really, really great way to watch your own progress and to evaluate yourself. Like, I still do this too. And I've be very proficient in training. I teach this for a living, but I can still break down every single rep that I do that something's incorrect on it.
Yep. And same thing we do it with posing. So why wouldn't you do it with training?
Absolutely. Some people don't film their own posing though. That I'm like, how do you know if it's good or not?
It's true. This is very true. And it's hard, because the other part of it too that I find, and I'm sure you see this too, is that a lot of times the form and everything is better on the front exercises and worse on the back. Like, a lot of times you see girls from the front, they look amazing, and you turn them to the back and they look like a different athlete. It's because when they're at the gym, they can watch themselves in the mirror for the front of their body. They can't watch the back. So they think they're hitting certain muscles when they're not, and they don't know what it's supposed to feel like. They don't know how it's supposed to be hit. This is where working with a trainer in the gym can be very helpful too. So they can help you find where it is. But you see it all the time. You see a girl walk out on stage, she looks bang on from the front, and then she turns around and has no glutes. And it's like, what happened?
Right.
What happened? And again, I go back to that. I wish somebody had done this for me, because I think I would have progressed a whole lot faster.
Yeah.
Things that I thought I was feeling, I actually wasn't feeling. So it's like, oh, when you start breaking it down like that, you're like, oh, okay, this makes a whole lot more sense now. I understand why this wasn't firing before. I understand this, I understand that. And the same thing, we've talked about this with the body work too. Like, now that my hamstrings are loosening up, I can feel the tie-in area better than I could before. Now that we're getting in and dry needling the glutes and opening up the glutes and all that kind of stuff, like, oh, like this, I can feel it now. Like, before I couldn't feel that area. I was like, I didn't even know I couldn't feel it until I could feel it again, like stuff like that. You just don't know until you don't know,
Right. And that's what I say to people all the time too. Like, I can't fault you to know what you don't know, but it is my job to educate you. You know, some people want to be coached a little bit more than others, and others feel like that's more of like an intense style of coaching. And like, you're literally looking at everything. And then there's the athletes that are like, give me more, you know? So as a coach too, it's, you know, we always have to find that balance per athlete on what's going to be what motivates them and helps them be successful without overwhelming them or without making them feel like we're not doing anything at all. You know, there's such a fine balance with that sometimes.
It is. Well, you're right, because you don't want to be like nitpicking, you know what I mean? You don't want them to feel like you're saying that everything they're doing is wrong.
Correct.
You know what I mean? It's like there's getting in the gym and training is better than not getting in gym training.
100%.
You know what I mean? So just because you're doing it wrong, at least you're doing something, you know, that's the biggest thing right there. So, and when we nitpick and pick apart stuff like that, it's not that we're trying to like dog you or anything like that. We're trying to help you do it better so that you get more activation, more growth, more everything out of every rep that you do. You know, I'd rather, like I tell people all the time, like drop the weights down and just go and feel it with your body. Just your body. That's it. If you can feel it with your body weight, then you can start adding weights. It's okay, because you're going to get more intensity and more benefit out of just feeling it with just your body weight than you would just throwing some weights around for the sake of throwing some weights around, you know?
And especially in improvement season, like there's one day that you know, go into the gym and you're throwing 50, 60 pound RDLs, no problem. And the next week you're so sore and so tight, you go pick up that same weight and you feel like you can't even lift it, you know? And that's just your body saying like, hey, like I need some more recovery today. Like, and it's okay to drop the weight on those weeks, but like, that's where Shawn's saying like, it's really important for you to understand how the muscle and how the movement is supposed to feel. That way, if you do have a situation like that, you're like, oh, this doesn't feel right. I did 60s last week. I was not feeling my back. I'm way feeling my back today. Maybe I need to go sit on that foam roller for another 10 or 15 minutes. You know, but that's something that, again, you can't teach. It has to come with time and learning your body, you know, getting into tune with your body. This is why I'm a coach that I do, you know, encourage to weigh in every day if it's not taxing on you, just so you could start to see the trends of your body. Like Shawn knew something was up when her weight was going up over the last 3 days, and that doesn't usually happen for her. She got her cycle. That's normal. Most of us go up in weight the day after free meals and lower body days and massages. Like, and while it's scary to see the weight jump up, you can then start to, oh, I did do legs yesterday. So it looks like on leg days, I, you know, go up about 0.5 pound to 0.8 of a pound on average, whatever. But it gives you more peace of mind and understanding your body too. Like knowledge is power. And especially in this sport of understanding those trends and why your body's responding or how it's responding.
And I'll say that like one of the girls that it's completely different for her than most people is Jennifer. When she does something, it shows up 2 days later. So we know that, like, we can't do a typical carb load like somebody else because it's not going to show up for 2 days, you know? It's and we just know that, you know, and she's figured that out from the way that her body responds. Like if she has like a cheat meal or something like that, you know, like if she has alcohol, the weight will show up 2 days later from the alcohol, right? So the inflammation, that's just how she responds to things. So while that isn't typical, you have to remember those things when you're dialing somebody in. You know, you have to remember those things when you're adding food to their diet and when you're, you know, whatever, when you're pulling back training or whatever, she responds, you'll see the response of it 2 days later. So that's just how she works. So not only that only gets figured out by taking data. That only gets figured out by, gets figured out by writing it down and checking it and all those kinds of things, you know, and just being observant of how your body works, you know. But yeah, so at this point, I actually have one of these reverse diet calls with one of my girls today because she competed yesterday. It was a very uncomfortable situation for her because her last 2 shows, she was too hard. So this show, I was like, we're going to soften you up. And she didn't like it. It messed with her head a lot.
Like the rest of us.
And I was understand. I was like, I understand this is uncomfortable for you. I get it. I said, but we've done 2 shows. This one was a fun show for her. It's in her backyard. You know, her family was there. She wanted to fix some posing errors. I said, we might as well try something new with your peak to try to get you a little softer. So we fat loaded her and all that kind of stuff. And she was fuller and she was softer, and her conditioning was not part of her feedback this time. So her feedback this time was that her conditioning was on point. And it was funny because when she got off stage from prejudging, I asked her how it went. She goes, "I was the softest one up there." I was like, okay. I was like, I'm thinking in my head, you think you were the softest one up there, but you weren't. I promise you weren't the softest one up there. She just felt different, which is normal. It's normal to feel different when we're doing something different. And that mentally was very difficult for her. But no, her feedback was she just needed to grow, which I agree with. We got to put her into an improvement season, and that's what we planned on anyway. So it wasn't a big deal, but it just made me laugh because I'm like, and the thing is her weight wasn't any higher, none of those kinds of things. It wasn't like she was gaining weight. She was just softer, which was good, is what we needed. I mean, she had striations in her glutes the last two shows, so we had to pull that down. I had her underpose everything so she wasn't flexing and all this kind of stuff, and she still can soften up some more still. But yeah, like it was funny just to see that. So we have a call today about her reversing and all that kind of stuff. She's already on a ton of food, so it's going to be, and she's already starving and all those kinds of things. So we're gonna have to play this one. Like, I'm just gonna give her 3,500 calories or something. I'm gonna tell her for Thanksgiving, just go eat whatever the hell you want for Thanksgiving. I don't care. Like, just eat.
That's so funny.
It's a tough problem to have. She's on zero cardio. I'm like, that's why we did another show. She was like, I don't even feel like I'm in prep. She's like, she was eating I think she's eating 2,500 calories now or something like that. I was like, she's no cardio. And I'm like,
do you know the difference between the weight between the two shows? Was it like a few pounds? Was it not really that much at all?
It was not much at all. I could pull it up. Let me find it real quick.
I was just curious.
Yeah, I could figure it out. Let me see.
It's a good reminder too, that you might feel like super, super soft, but in all reality, you're only up a couple pounds. Like what Sam was saying, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like when she was like, in that check-in, like, oh, I feel big, I feel fluffy. That was more of like her monologue from her hormones talking. And I was like, Sam, you're only up like 4.2 pounds from stage, and half of that is just intramuscular fullness,
Yep. So this was yesterday she was at 121.2 pounds, and then her show date was what date? Let me pull up something. This is the show date. Her show date was the 9th. So on the 9th, she was 121. She was the same weight. 121 and 121.2.
There you go.
Yep.
Isn't that a mental fuck?
Right?
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that's that data matters, Like, and that's the thing too. Like when everything happened with Sasquatch and Legions, like when I won Legions, everybody's like, well, what'd you guys do differently? What was nothing. Literally, I woke up the same weight to the ounce both weekends. I did that on purpose. Like, so it's a mindful.
Well, part of it with her too was like she was having congestion all week too, so she felt like she was bloated. I was like, you don't look bloated at all. Like she felt like she was inflamed. I was like, I understand. Sick. Yeah, I know. I was like, I understand that feeling. I know what you're talking about. I understand how that feels. I said, but when I see your pictures and videos, I don't see it at all. Like she took a video of her showing me her belly pooch. I was like, you're pushing it out. I'm like, that's the only time that I see it is when you actually show it to me like that. I'm like, but when you're in your poses, it's not there.
Yeah, when you're in your pose, you're not tucking. And
I was making me laugh. I was like, when you just stand there relaxed and let their stomach out. Yeah, I see it. I'm like, but when you're posing, it's not there. Make me laugh.
The things we tell ourselves.
Yeah, so she was happy. She ended up placing decent and all that stuff too. So she was happy about all that. But yeah, her biggest piece of feedback that she was happy about was her walk to the back had improved, because her walk to the back at the Virginia show that she was at was bad. It was really bad. I was like, we need to work on that. I was like, that was not good. So specifically, one of the judges told her she was the only girl in the show that kept her pelvis tilted when she walked to the back and kept her glutes up. I was like, That right there alone, that was worth doing
That's
the
a
show.
win.
Right
Yeah.
there. That was worth doing the show. 100%. Like, regardless of anything else went and failed, that was worth it right there. So, her kids got to see her on stage. Her mom got to see her on stage. They haven't seen her compete. So I thought that was really cool. Like, it was a great way to end out her season and all of that. So right after this podcast, I have her call going into this coming week and starting her reverse out. So I think that's actually a good kind of segue into Thanksgiving plans. So how do you handle this with your clients? Like, what do you tell them to do for Thanksgiving?
If they are not in prep, they all have an untracked day with their family. And I do give them guidelines in terms of like how to think about the meal. So the first thing I'll tell them is like, if mentally you feel like you need to track or want to track, then go ahead and do that. Like you have the option not to, but if you would like to track, then do that. Some other tips that I give them are, depending on what time of day the meal is, do not go into it starving. Have a few meals in the beginning of the day or like a nice big breakfast, and try to keep the meals leading up to the Thanksgiving meal higher in protein and carbs and lower in fats. That's actually something that I tell them all the time, even with their untracked meals, is always just try to keep your fats on the lower side as much as you can. That's kind of where you get into trouble and what our bodies don't respond to the best. Some other tips that I give them is drinking water on that day. Hydrating keeps you full. And then also too, like smaller plates. And I know like that sounds really weird, but if you grab these huge plates, then you feel like you have to kind of fill up the entire plate. So if you bring your own Tupperware and then put the food in the Tupperware, that will kind of portion out what your normal meal volume is. And then obviously, Thanksgiving is very food centered, but at the end of the day, it is mostly about family. I'm someone, and I know I think you're the same way, Shawn. Like, I don't really care for Thanksgiving food. So it's not like a huge deal to me. Honestly, I'll eat like my mother-in-law's pumpkin chocolate chip bread. I'll take that any day over, like the high fat sides.
Yep. Agreed.
And then I just tell them to, like, no matter what you eat that day, if you eat some food off of the Thanksgiving table, more than likely your weight's going to be up the next day. There is so much fat and so much sodium in those foods. And then you add alcohol on top of it. Like, you're going to have an inflammatory response, and not to get too, in your head about it. If my girls are on prep, they are on prep. They have to bring their meals. Sorry, it is what it is. This is the cost of competing through the holidays. And I've done it too. It's not the best. It stinks. I get it. Like, even if I don't like the food, the mental block of not being able to choose to have the food is tough. But, it's one day. It's only one day. So those are some things that I tell them. How about you? Do you have any others on top of that?
Yeah. So we'll just talk about myself since I am in prep and I'm a week out. So we discussed this, Dan and I discussed this last week. So we're like, what are we going to do for Thanksgiving? We talked about doing the Cornish game hens. I said, yeah, but those are iffy because you just don't really know what's in them. Like, there's a lot of, fat and things like that. So I was like, let's just not do the Cornish game hens. I was like, I'd rather just keep it so that I know exactly what I'm tracking. So we're doing steaks and we're doing seafood, like crab legs. So surf and turf, basically. And we're going to grill. For me, I would rather have that anyway than turkey. That's just,
me too.
That's just me. I'd rather have that anyway.
Me too.
So it is what it is. And he was like, well, we can do some sweet potatoes. That's the other thing. And I was like, you can do a sweet potato. I don't want a sweet potato. I want a regular potato. I was like, so I just want a basic white baked potato with steak and my crab legs. And that'll be my Thanksgiving dinner. And it fits with everything that I normally eat anyway. Like, I still eat seafood right now. I still eat beef right now. I don't eat chicken mostly, but I'll have steak probably like once a week, once every 2 weeks, depending on where I'm at with what I need for iron and things like that. And I do like shrimp and stuff like that every once in a while too. So that all still fits in with what I typically eat prep. And like I said, I'm a week out at that point, so I can't get crazy with it. And I can still measure my sodium. I can still measure all that stuff, and it's just grilled on the grill. So it's not like we're adding anything to it, sauces or anything like that. So for me, it's very just status quo is what it is, right? With my clients, I tell them what to do based on where they are mentally. So I have some girls that I know they can handle the whole, like, just eat whatever you feel like eating. So I tell them they can have an intuitive eating day. which is typically what I tell girls right after a show too, like that Sunday, the day after the show. I said, have an intuitive eating day where you just eat what you feel like eating, but don't overdo it. Don't worry about tracking, don't worry about any of those kinds of things. Just be mindful of your hunger cues and what you actually want to eat versus what you think you want to eat. You know what I mean? So that's where the intuitive eating, understanding your body, understanding what you really want comes into play. Some people can handle that, some people can't. So I give them options based on what I feel like mentally they can handle. All of them, like I said, a lot of them are in reverses right now. All of them, if they're not in reverse, are going towards like spring shows right now. So we still don't want to go crazy. We still are in that time frame right now where it's very important that we're keeping track of their macros so that we're increasing their food and we're keeping them at a good body composition, right? Because the holidays you can go off board really, really quickly, really, really easily. So for some of them, I tell them they can have a flex meal. So the flex meal for Thanksgiving is 800 calories. They can eat whatever they want, but it has to be within 800 calories. And that's their Thanksgiving dinner. The rest of the day, they're tracking like normal. So they're tracking their normal macros. So the flex meal, they can eat whatever they want to. So that's their Thanksgiving dinner, and they don't have to track it. They don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. They just have to keep it within that 800 calorie zone. So it's a loose kind of tracking, right? And I know that's hard to do when you're doing Thanksgiving meals, but again, if you pick stuff like turkey breast and things like that, where you can kind of guesstimate, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So there's that. So I do that as well. And for that one, like I said, I want them still eating their other foods throughout the day. I want them eating their normal foods, like you said, keeping it lower in fat, those kinds of things. The same kind of situation. You're not just starving yourself up until the Thanksgiving meal so that you can eat it,
That's where you go wrong.
Correct. That's right. Because then you're starving and you just eat everything in sight.
Correct.
You just eat everything in sight. So, instead, like I said, stay with what you're normally eating throughout the day, and then you've got that 800 calories or so to play with.
That buffer.
Or you have the intuitive eating day, right?
Yeah.
So it's one of the two. And if they're in prep, which none of them are right now. Oh no, I take that back. One of them is. If they're in prep, they just got to stick to their plan. That's it.
Yeah.
Period. So the food will still be there when it's over. Food will still be there when it's over. And, I have girls right now that, again, they're not even in prep. They're just in the recomp phase. And there's like, I'll probably just stick to my macros anyway. I have girls that have said that. I have one girl that she's in a recomp phase right now, and her whole family is in prep. She's like, so they're all doing their prep meals and stuff. She goes, yeah. She goes, she's like, I'm just going to stick to my macros. I said, cool, awesome, perfect.
Sweet.
So
that's cool.
Yeah. So it's, I don't want them to feel unnecessary pressure, where they feel like if they do something wrong, they fucked up and they're just going to just throw the rest of it out the window. I want to give them some guidelines and some structure to it so they know how to stay within that structure, but they don't feel super restricted either. There's a,
and
like
I
you
think
said,
that comes down to how the family treats them as well. I know for like newer competitors, especially if this is like their first time showing up to the Thanksgiving table as a competitor, their family is going to be like, well, why are you not eating that food? And kind of almost pressuring them in a way. So like setting that boundary ahead of time. I know I did this with my family the first couple of Thanksgivings. I called them ahead of time and I was like, hey, I'm not going to be eating the food. Do you not want me to be there at dinner? Do you want me to come before you guys eat or after you guys eat? And one year I showed up and I was just kind of sitting there when they were all eating, and it was a little weird. So then the following year they were like, why don't you come between 2 to 4 and we'll be done eating, and then, whatever. And then they kind of like structured it with me. But it takes some trial and error, and some families are just cool with anything and they just support you no matter what. Most of the time it's the latter. So if you feel like your family's gonna, grandma's gonna be upset because you're not eating that, super fatty casserole, like just calling the family ahead of time, be like, just so you guys know, I am bringing my own food and I appreciate for you to support me. Everything we talked about with Sam last week, just like going into the reverse diet or even into a prep with your family and telling them what you need and how they can support you.
Absolutely. And I think the more that you do this, I think the more supportive families become too, because they realize it's not just a phase or it's not just a fad or something like that. Because that happens with my family now. Like when I first started, it was that situation. My dad would come out with the ice cream and the chips and the pizza, and he's like, well, you can have a glass of wine. I'm like, no, I can't, Dad, I can't have that. So now anytime I go to see them or whatever, like, so what can you eat?
What can I get for you?
Correct. Yes.
And it's more of a less of an annoyance for them. And just like you're saying, they're now understanding like this isn't a phase and this is who you are now. So like, my mother-in-law called me yesterday and she's like, all right, you're coming. What can I have here for you? Like, blah, 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 blah. Like 3 years ago, it was like, I have to go to the store and I have to get you a separate creamer and a separate chicken breast. You know what I mean? But now it's just, if she wants me there, she knows that this is my lifestyle. So Remember, like, it takes the family time too, because for a lot of people, they're yo-yo dieters. They don't understand that this is something that's going to continue. And even for people that are watching this, like, maybe you did compete and then you blew your reverse, and that's what they saw, you know, so that's what they're, oh, she's done. She just got to eat whatever she wanted again. Here's round 2, you know? And I think that's even more prevalent to have that conversation. Like, hey, 100%. I really fumbled that one up last time. I'm really looking for your support here because I cannot do that again. But yes, the family gets on board the more and more it happens. My dad was not okay with this in the beginning. Like, I just told you guys a few minutes ago, he still doesn't, you know, choose to really hang out with me when I'm in prep. You know, it's just, it's his boundary and it is what it is. But he's more accepting now, knowing that, like, I'm his kid. This is what I choose. This is what makes me happy. So if he wants to spend time with me, we got to go somewhere where I can track. Like, it is. For
a lot of people, it's like, you know, food is their love language. That's how they show you that they love you. You know what I mean? So for them to not be able to spoil you is hard.
Correct.
But then, you know, once they start to realize that this is your lifestyle and you're going to continue to do it this way, their love language is still food. They just realize they got to get you the food that you're going to eat. You know what I mean? And I've seen that with my family. I've seen that with my family. It's like they always make sure they've got plain chicken and vegetables and things like that at the house anytime I'm there, because they know that's what I'm going to want. You know, they know they understand. They've always got it there. They've got their foods too. So if I decide I want to have something, I can. Right. You know, but like they're prepared in case I don't want that stuff. Funny story. So, you know, my husband's mother, before she passed away, she was a flamenco dancer in Spain. So she was always very, like, put together, always in really good shape. She always had, you know, her hair and makeup done, all that kind of stuff. She was very, very much into all that stuff. So there was one year after my season where I ate my face off. And she literally sat me down and she was like, now, you've got to be careful with how much weight you put on. And I was like, I think it's time for me to rein myself in. Like when my mother-in-law, the Spanish mother-in-law who loves to feed her kids all the food that she possibly can feed, is telling me to stop, I probably should stop.
That's the wake-up call.
Yeah, it's like, okay, don't worry. I said, I just finished competing. That's why I'm eating like this. And like, this was before reverse dieting. We didn't know.
Of course.
You know, I was like, and I reined myself in, but I was like, oh, that's a different kind of response. Because my family would have been like, here, have more.
Like, oh, she's eating, yay.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, well, at least she's honest. I loved her. She was fantastic. Like, so the culture in Spain is that if you have something that's an anomaly about you, they call you that. Like, it's not like taboo. Like, a good example is like little people, they literally call them midgets. Like, that's just their culture. They tell them that's what they are. Me, because I'm so tall, my mother-in-law, my name for my mother-in-law, she couldn't say Shawn with her Spanish accent. So my name was La Larga. the big girl. La Larga. That was my name. So they never called me Shawn. They called me La Larga. So, yeah. It's
kind of like Sebum with his pre-workout Savage. How they, I actually just watched his documentary. If anybody wants to watch it, it's really, really good. It's a paid one I think it's on Amazon Prime, and it's about Raw, the company, and how they kind of like built it, branded it, etc. But Sebum was like, I've always had a list. And so when we were trying to come up with, you know, the brand of my pre-workout, I was like, I'm going to lean into this. You know, this is something that people used to make fun of me all 100%. The time. And this is a trademark for me, you know, and what better name? Savage. Like, it's literally perfect. But, you know, those people that, you know, have something that's different about them and they really lean into it, if they're leaning into it, like, what are you going to make fun of them about? They're already making fun of themselves or accepting it. You know, I love that. I absolutely love that.
It was great. It was like, and it's because, again, with her Spanish accent, she would call me, it wasn't Shawn, it's Shawn. So it was like, she couldn't say my name. So she's like, La Larga, La Larga. Yeah, La Larga. And
I would be midget.
Right, yeah. She was 4'11". She was 4'11". So you put her, she used to, every time we came to her house, that was the first thing we'd do is we had to take a picture together because she would come up to here on me. And so we had to take a picture together. She'd always put her head on my boob. And
growing up, my cousins had a nanny, and it was Nanny Rose, and she was like 4'1" and like huge, and her cooking was Amazing, amazing. But same thing, like when I was 13, I would take a photo with her and she was like up to here on me. And I'm like,
well, picture it this way. My husband, Dan, is 6'2", right? He got his dad's height. So his dad was 6 foot tall. But his mom was 4'11", Spanish flamenco dancer, double D boobs by her, like just natural double D boobs and big ol' ass. Her nickname in Spain as a flamenco dancer was Culi, which is the ass. That was her nickname.
Wow.
So I'm La Larga and she was Culi.
Perfect.
The giant and the ass.
Dan's pretty lucky. Both of his women in his life.
Right. I know. It's so funny. Danny said when he was a kid, it was the worst thing because he was the one where like his friends would always want to come to his house because his mom had these big old jigglies. They wanted to see his mom. Oh
my God. Poor Dan. And then he married the model.
I know. It's so funny. It's like, oh my God. He's like, he would be like, my friends always wanted to come to my house because my mom would be cooking and she's got her boobs out and like her butt out.
That's so funny.
So great. She was the best. Anyway, that was
her this holiday.
That was a really random tangent. But I was thinking about like holidays and stuff because we used to go down there Thanksgiving all the time and everything when she was alive, and his dad too. They both passed, but yeah, it's just funny the things you start thinking about. So
totally.
Anyway, Thanksgiving. So actually, one of the worst Thanksgivings we ever had, and Dan always picks on his sisters about this too, is because his sisters have been trying to be healthier, so they went like gluten-free and all this kind of stuff and vegan and everything. So we went down there and his sister made this whole gluten-free vegan Thanksgiving dinner. And Dan was like, no offense. He's like, but if you do that, we're not ever coming back again. He said, we're not coming back for that shit. That was terrible. It was so bad.
There was one Thanksgiving that my family, like, they didn't want to cook. So they ordered from like this Italian restaurant and it was awful. Like going from Nanny Rose's cooking, Nanny Rose passed away eventually. So she would make every holiday for us, and I'm just like true Italian woman, like true Italian cooking. Anyway, so then that year we ordered from this Italian restaurant. We all took the first bite and we're like, and it probably wasn't even that bad of food. Like it was just like so different than like that home cooked, true Italian. I don't know. There is just something like I love the families that do like lasagna for Thanksgiving. So it's funny because I'm getting to Miami on Wednesday night. And I'm making lasagna for the family. I'm like, I'm getting like one meal in that like I love. Everybody loves my lasagna. So, and I can only eat it in off season, obviously, because that's really high in fat. So,
yep, and carbs, just fat and carbs. That's all it is.
I do add pepperoni and ground beef, so we got a little bit of protein in there. A little bit
of protein. That was actually going to be something I was going to mention as far as what you could do as a something to help is like if you have like a dish to pass, bring something that you can eat as your dish to pass. You know what I mean? Like a salad or whatever.
Agreed. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Something that you can eat, because then that way you can participate.
Yes.
So there's that. My thing was I made this pumpkin mousse one year for my family, and I made it for Dan's family one year too. It's the simplest thing ever. I mean, it really is, but it's so good. And every year, whenever I go to a family function, they're like, make your mousse, pumpkin mousse. They want it every time. I'm like, all right. It literally is the easiest thing to make. It takes 5 minutes to make, and you stick it in the refrigerator and it's done. So, but I'm like, all right, that's my thing.
Easy for you.
Yeah, right. Yep. I can. The hard part is though, I can't eat that when I'm on prep, but it is really good.
But you got to make it and smell it and be around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can't lick the beaters.
No.
Nope.
Unfortunately not.
But yeah, so there's lots of things that it's difficult to get past them when you're first going into these things, when you're first starting in this lifestyle and everything. But once you do it more, people start to understand it, and again, your environment is very tricky initially to kind of navigate. Go into it like the things that we mentioned, like, just go into it with a plan where this is what you're going to stick to, and don't feel bad about sticking to it. Your family and friends, they may not understand it quite yet, but they will. Yeah. They'll get it. And at the end of the day, if they really care about you, they just want to support you anyway. They want to make sure that you're happy. And that's the thing. It's like, usually, again, talking about love languages, usually food is what makes people happy, so they want to make sure that you're having a good time. They want to make sure that you're enjoying yourself. And if you're not able to eat their food, they're afraid you're not having a good time. So,
correct.
you know, a lot of times it's just about them wanting to make sure that they're being a good host or whatever it might be. You know, they want to make sure that you're happy and you're satisfied and you're not missing out. And that, you know, I know for me, whenever I'm doing, like when I do CCTS, whenever I'm doing an event or something, I want to make sure that my people that are there are enjoying themselves. You know, that's the whole reason I do it in the first place, you know? So, you know, understand that too. They're not trying to pressure you because they don't like what you're doing. They're more so just wanting to make sure that you're happy. So
Correct.
Just have that conversation. Say, this is what's going to make me happy, you know.
Correct.
And if they can see it that way, usually they'll be on board with it, you know.
Yeah.
And they may still try to get you to drink some wine or have some pumpkin pie.
Oh, they will.
You know, but that's just them trying to be good hosts, you know. Yeah. That's all.
Okay, hold on, I gotta pee. I can't focus. Sorry.
Okay.
Right. All right, you guys, we are almost 2 weeks out from my show, so I have my skin prep ready from Liquid Sunrays. They've sent me my kit. You have your exfoliating body towel. This is going to make your skin nice and smooth, not too rough on the exfoliating. pH balancing body wash, which is super, super important. You want to make sure that your skin is pH balanced, so it's going to absorb your tan perfectly. This is your charcoal sugar scrub, which is the bomb. This is my favorite product that Liquid Sunrays has right here. And something about this, it just makes that tan really soak in deep. And then last but not least, we have our Liquid Sunrays body lotion, which you're gonna put on every single time you get out of the shower, and that's just gonna put your skin into really good condition when it goes to actually get sprayed for the tan. So we're starting this today and making my skin perfect for that tan as we get into the competition season.
Hey, so you know what? You're getting sleep. That's what matters.
Yeah,
that's what matters. You know, I slept normal. I went to bed late last night, but I slept normal today. Yesterday, my sleep was off because Gabby was getting on stage. So I was getting up to see her pictures.
Super early.
All that kind of stuff. Yeah, making sure.
Where did she compete at? What show?
Long Island, the Bev's show up there. So they it was actually a pretty easy show day because they didn't start prejudging. They're supposed to start at noon. They didn't start prejudging until 1, I think, something like that.
It's pretty late.
Yeah, they went straight from prejudging straight into finals. So they had like a 10-minute break in between. So yeah, it was great. It was good.
I love that.
So, yeah, and you know, I for me too, like we did a bunch of trial runs because she didn't want to hire the host makeup people.
Okay.
So we did a bunch of trial runs this past week with her makeup. So she did her own makeup. And then she went and got tanned, which when they do the tanning out there, you have to go to Bev's gym to actually get tanned. So it was like an hour from the venue to go get tanned. So she got tanned at 10 something. I can't remember the timeline in my head now. And then, so when she got done with tanning, then she went to the venue at that point. So she was there for an hour or two before she actually got on stage. So it actually worked out okay. The timing all worked out really good. But that's just weird. I was like, okay, you have to drive all the way to the gym to get tanned. But at least she did her own hair and makeup, so it wasn't a problem.
And I've heard it's not convenient to get to Bev's. Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. I go there sometimes like after like New York Pro or after Universe or whatever. But it's an hour drive from Siosat, from the actual host for those shows. I don't know. So it was Long Island, so I don't know where the host was for this show yesterday. But yeah, she said it was an hour drive because she lives 20 minutes from the venue. So that was the whole point. Like she wanted to compete right in her backyard, that kind of thing.
So she had her own car too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. I can only imagine the people too that like weren't local.
True. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it ended up being good. The only thing I don't like about their shows is they don't allow any videoing at all. None. So I'm like, okay, great. Because, you know, like I said, she got off stage and she's like, I was the softest one on stage. I was like, well, I didn't see the comparison, so we can't say that that's what the case was. You know, you might think you were the softest one on stage, but I don't know until I see everybody else. Right. You know, so I was like, this is ridiculous. Like so they make you buy the photos and video package if you want that, that's whatever. That's fine. You're trying to make your money as a promoter. I get that. But they don't record the comparisons. I'm like, so if you don't record the comparisons, why can't people video the comparisons?
Right.
Because that's what I want to see.
There's no official videographer or photographer. Right. That's usually the reason why, is if there's a live stream. Right.
I'm like, if you're not having anybody video that, why can't people in the audience video it?
Because, is this Steve's people? Yeah, they are really strict. At Universe, I think his team runs it, and literally the same guy yelled at me 3 or 4 times being in like the Fit Body Fusion VIP area. And I was like, I am Fit Body Fusion. Like, why are you not recognizing me? I've been here for 4 days rotting here with you. He yelled at me every time, and I had to call Steve every time. And I'm like,
crazy.
Dude.
Well, I've told the story. I think I told the story on this podcast before, but like I was there for University a few years back, and one of the girls, they had already been done. Like I said, it's a 4-day show, so their pictures are already up online. So she sent me her photos. And I'm sitting there in the front row with her photo on my phone from NPC News Online, and I'm looking at it, right? And he comes over and he goes, "No photos." I was like, it's literally from NPC News. Like, there's a watermark on the photo. This is a text message that she sent me. I didn't take this picture. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm like, I can't even look at my phone now.
Oh, like, you can take a photo with your eyes now, and then it goes right down to your phone.
I know. I was like, I'm literally looking at the NPC News Online photos. Like, it has JM's watermark on it right there. Like,
that's ridiculous.
I was like, bro, chill. I'm like, oh my God.
Tim Gardner's girl that runs backstage, she used to be like that too. Now she's super, super cool. But there was a few times a couple of years ago where like she was kicking Jamie out of the Tampa Pro area because she didn't have one of the, and it wasn't Jamie's fault. They forgot to give it to her.
Yep.
And and we were about to go on, like, you know, you line up on the top of the stairs, then they pull you down. Well, we're lining up on the top of the stairs, which is technically Jamie's last look on us. And they were literally pulling her off. And Jamie's like, I am really sorry I have to say this right now, but do you see that logo that's sitting on that tag? That's my logo. I am not moving from this area.
Yeah.
Call Tim.
I remember that. Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. And I understand. I really do. I understand, like, and you do too, Shawn, like the insurance part of things, and like people aren't supposed, but like, if somebody's standing there saying like, I am a sponsor of this event, I promise you I'm supposed to be here. Like, you need to make a phone call versus like pulling someone out of the backstage area.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like, do your due diligence too. Like, know who your main people are. And
like, still, like, you're still covering your bases. Like, hey, I have someone here who says they're not leaving and they're supposed to be here. Are they? Or like, you're still doing the right thing. But now she knows, like, she knows we're Fitbot, you know, but it's funny. It's just, it's difficult to deal with.
Yeah, going back to, I was like, the whole thing, I was annoyed because I was like, I want to be able to see what you look like next to everybody. That's the whole thing. I'm like, you know, because I was there, you know, for Virginia, and I saw where we needed improvements, and that's what made me do the tweaks that we made for this show. I'm like, I want to see what those looks like on stage next to everybody else. You know what I mean? So. Yeah.
And I too get it. You know, this is a conversation I had with my athletes when we had our team call last weekend. You know, like, we have a responsibility to give back to the sport and help the promoters by paying for the live streams, by going to local shows and paying for tickets. So like, if somebody's showing up to a show and they're live streaming it off of their phone, you are literally taking money out of the promoter's pocket, because that person should go online and purchase the $20 live stream. Yep. So I understand it from that perspective, but the person needs to be actively holding up their phone to get in trouble. Like, you were literally like,
I was literally on my phone like this in my seat. Yeah. I'm like, and you're going to yell at me because I'm looking at a text message.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck.
But that's something to think about too, guys. Like, that's why they're so about it, because these promoters are struggling. They're really struggling. And like, as athletes, I really do feel like we have a responsibility to get back to the sport in any way that we can. You know, we get back, you know, in the amateur league by like registration fees and things like that. But if you're in off season, you know, for a year, like, you're still a member of the NPC IFBB. Like, that's how you can help. Go to the pre-judging, go to the finals, pay for your ticket. Don't go up to the promoter and be like, can I have a free ticket? If they want to give you a free ticket, they're going to reach out to you and give you a free ticket. If not, pay. Like, that is our responsibility to make sure that our sport keeps thriving. It is a business at the end of the day. And if we keep just like pulling back on, you know, finances, like, the sport's not going to survive. You know, we have to consume it in order for it to survive.
Yeah. Well, the same thing goes for like any other service. You know, I get that a lot. Like, I find that, I don't know if this happens with you or not, but I find that some of my clients, and I don't want to say this so it sounds negative, but they see me as a friend more than they do a business, right? So sometimes they don't even think about it this way, but I'm like, you do realize that when you fuck me over, that's actually taking money off my table. Like, you do realize that, right? They don't see it that way. They just see it as, well, I can't, you know, posing session, for example. If I cancel a posing session within 24 hours, I can't get somebody to fill that slot. So, you've just taken away an hour from somebody else that needed it, and you've taken an hour away of my income as well.
Money, right?
Like I can't, I have to charge you for that hour. I have to. I'm like, because if I don't, I've just gotten bit in the ass twice. 3 times actually, because you just canceled, somebody else couldn't take the slot, and I lost money from everybody. So I have to, like, you have to understand, like, when we have to refund something, it doesn't come from some big business like Amazon. It comes from our bank account. Like,
plus what people don't realize too, and we don't expect you to as business owners, but it also costs you money to refund that money back.
Yes, it does.
And it costed
Yes, it
us
does.
money to charge you that money.
Yes.
Merchant fees. Merchant fees are one of the top line business expenses that nobody thinks about. Merchant fees are very expensive, and people are like, just refund it. Like, just write a check, just refund it. It's like, no, like, now I'm out $50 from charging and then re-giving it
100%.
back to you. And the merchant fees cost more when you give a refund, because they actually technically look at refunds as like a red flag on your business.
Yes,
like,
sure do.
why are you giving a refund? Was there an issue? Like, and if there's multiple refunds in a month or in a year, my merchant company makes me report why I was giving those refunds out. Because it could also go back to like money laundering. Like, and obviously these are things that we're not doing, but these are the things that you don't think about when you're not dealing with them on the back end as a business owner. Like, everything that you do when you make a move in your business costs money. Yep.
100%. Fun fact. So they're now keeping track of people that do chargebacks too much.
Yep.
And that became something that I think was probably a problem during the whole COVID situation as well, because people just started charging back things that they legitimately purchased, but they just started charging back everything because they were losing money. Correct. And they wanted their money back.
Correct.
Well, so they've started, just like a credit score, they've started keeping track of how often you do chargebacks.
Correct.
So when you do a lot of chargebacks, guess what? The business has an opportunity to defend themselves. They have an opportunity to come in and say that this person bought this thing legitimately, got this service, got this product, whatever. And if they can show proof that they delivered on what you purchased, they get their money. The business does. We've had a couple of chargebacks in the last year, which we don't get a lot. Honestly, we don't get a lot of chargebacks. We have won every single one of them. Every single one. So...
And you're right, it did happen with COVID. It did happen starting COVID. Yep.
Yeah.
Because people were online shopping a ton, and then they realized they were online shopping a ton, and then they were starting to, try to read.
And you know what happened? So this is the other thing that happens with that. So with that score, you as a consumer now have a score that the businesses can see, and they can choose not to work with you as a consumer. Yeah. They can choose not to work with you as a consumer if you charge back too much in your credit, and that score is showing as you're a high risk consumer. They can choose not to sell to you.
Yeah. I know this has actually happened with a couple of makeup artists this year too, where girls have literally gone in, gotten their makeup done. The artist took photos of the athlete in their chair with their makeup done. The athlete leaves, everything's fine, and then they go report to their credit card bureau that they never got the service. Yeah. Which, by the way, when that happens, as the business, we get a letter in the mail saying, this is what's happening. Do you have any proof of, the opposite?
We're able to defend ourselves, yes.
Correct. And then if we do, then the situation like Shawn happens, and the same has happened for the makeup artist that I've been hearing about. And I'm like, could you imagine being, and this goes back to, again, what we were just talking about a few minutes ago, of our responsibility as athletes helping everybody else in this sport. Like, could you imagine sitting in someone's chair getting a service, then 2 days later reporting to the credit card company you never got that service? Like, in what world, even if I did not like the makeup, that's a risk you take. Like, if you've never worked with somebody before, unfortunately, they did provide a service. If you didn't like it, that's okay. You just don't use them next time. But they did give you a service.
Give you what they promised.
To me, is stealing, and I don't think a lot of people view that as stealing. That is that is just stealing in daylight with a camera on you. That's right, but it's still stealing.
Yeah, and this is how much the times have changed, because this was 2016, 2017, something like that. I had a girl that bought a suit package from me, and then she got her suit, she got her posing, she got everything, and then she charged it back.
Yeah.
And I had pictures of her on stage. I had pictures with her with the suit on, and I sent it into the credit card and everything. we lost the chargeback. She got her money back.
Yeah.
You know, this year I had a girl do something similar where she purchased a package, issued a chargeback. I had video proof of doing posing sessions with her. I had proof of me putting her suit into production. I hadn't actually shipped it yet, thank God. I had proof of all of that sent to the credit card company. We won the chargeback.
Yeah.
So that's how much the times have changed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I literally have video of me and her like on a FaceTime session. We sent it to the credit card companies. Like, she's saying she never received this service yet. Here she is posing for me right here.
That's crazy. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'm thankful that a lot of our people that we surround ourselves with.
It was such a random tangent, but
yes,
but it was eating at me.
It was relevant in the time.
It was relevant. We went down this path. Support
if you're
your
watching
people.
this, don't do that.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I'd rather
people.
someone just come to me and be like, "Hey, I'm not happy. Can I have my money back?" You know, like,
yeah.
That's so much easier for us to deal with, but
yeah.
whatever.
Well, no, and you know, that happens. You know, in business, you've got people that will come to you and say, listen, I bought this on accident or whatever, or I can't afford this anymore. What can we do? And 9 times out of 10, we can find an equitable solution.
Absolutely.
You know, we can find something we're going to find something that works for you. We understand shit happens. We get it. We're going to figure something out so everybody's happy. Exactly. You know, there's no need to go around us, because as business owners, when we get chargebacks, that hurts us. Mm-hmm. That hurts our merchant accounts, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I'm thankful we have the opportunity to defend ourselves now, because that was not the case.
There was no communication 3-4 years ago. It was just, this is happening. Get a letter in the mail, and they were pulling the money out of your account. Okay.
That's right.
And here's the fees attached to it too, which you're responsible for.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. So
thank God that doesn't happen to me a lot in my business. Like, it's gym, right? Like, you're paying for an open gym membership, or you're paying for personal training. Like, it does not happen that much. It happens sometimes, but when it happens, it's a bear to deal with. And
there's a reason why we have to have policies in place. It's a reason why, like, whenever you go to buy anything from me, like, all of the terms and conditions are right there before you click the purchase button, because you have to check off on it saying that you read everything.
I tell this to my general manager all the time. He is the sweetest man alive, but he would give everything away for free if he could. And I'm like, and we all would. We're all in the service industry because we love people, but it's like 100%. We also have to pay our bills. You know?
That's right.
So I tell this to my general manager all the time. Like, I love you and I love your heart and I understand where you're coming from. However, we have to keep the lights on.
That's right. 100%.
I have to pay rent.
That's right. We have to make the right decision for everybody involved. You know,
Absolutely.
Like we can figure out something that's going to work. You know, just communicate. Absolutely. Like you said, communicate. Like, that's the worst thing that you can do, is just go behind our backs and do a chargeback, because guess what? Then the fire is going to come out. We're going to make sure that you pay for it. Period. That's it. Like, I'm like, if you talk to us, we'll figure it out. If you try to go behind our backs and do some shady shit, you're going to pay for it. Right. So,
and on that note,
so I am thankful. I'm thankful for the change in structure that's actually benefiting business now. Yes. That's something I'm thankful for this year. Let's end this out. Let's end this podcast out with some things we're thankful for this year. So we're ending on a positive high note. What's something you're thankful for this year?
I'm thankful for a lot this year. I've been reflecting a lot on my move to Arizona and how great that's been, and my staff in Florida, because if it wasn't for them, I would not be able to be out here. So that's something I keep really, really thinking about, because it's very simple, but it's opened up so many doors for me, both mentally and physically, you know, so just very, very thankful for the move to Arizona, all the opportunities it's opened up for me this year, my mental health. Like, it's just a cascade effect, because I moved here, literally, we pulled in December 31st last year. So it's almost been a year. And the gym's doing, super well alone and without us there. So that's a small, but a very broad thought. So obviously just the move and everybody that's been involved, and our people, maybe people have seen Adair just moved to Arizona too. She got her 3-year visa. She literally lives right there. I could see her apartment. And then Nikki lives on the other side of that. And then Jamie's right here. So like, we are all right in this little circle. Hannah's about 15 minutes north. So it's cool. Like we have community here now and we have family here, you know, and we're going away for Thanksgiving, but all of us will be home for Christmas. So I'm really looking forward to kind of being with everyone and spending time together.
No, that's nice. That's awesome to kind of find your tribe, you know?
Yeah. And I'm also thankful that I'm not going to be on the road for like 4 weeks in December. So
thank the Lord, right? Yeah. So kind of the same scenario. Like, I'm thankful for a lot of things. I'm thankful for the struggles that we've had, like even just the last couple of years. It's been difficult with the economy being the way it is, with the industry being the way it is. It's really one thing that struggle does is it kind of opens up your eyes to the things you have to do versus the things that you don't want to do or think you want to do or maybe you want to do or whatever. Decisions start getting made for you, right? So we've had to make a lot of those kinds of decisions this year, and I'm thankful for them because you start realizing what's really important. You know, we've made some pretty significant decisions about going into next year and things like that too. So all of those came about from stuff that's happened this year, you know, and change can be scary sometimes. Change can be hard, like for you moving to Arizona and everything. That's a scary thing to have to do. But when you know that that's what you have to do and what it's the right decision for you, you can lay your head down at night saying, okay, I know I'm doing the right thing for me, you know? So kind of same thing as us. We've just made some decisions that we kind of have to, but it's been the right move and it's going to be the right move going into the next year. So, you know, we've had some tough struggles, but I also say like, having struggles means you're alive. You know, a good example of this is just the other day, Dan sent me a message of one of his coworkers at his other job that he works for. She went into the hospital on Friday, 36-year-old mother of 2, I think, had an infection of some sort, and she died on Sunday. So like it just overtook her body. Just out of nowhere, 36 years old, and she's gone and leaves behind a family, you know, and it's just like, you know, we can sit here and bitch and moan about the shit that's going on in our lives, but at the end of the day, we're alive. You know, at the end of the day, it's a gift, you know, and when we start thinking in terms of that kind of scenario, you know, it's like, okay, well, I'm thankful for this. Yeah, I'm thankful for this struggle that we're going through right now. I'm thankful for being able to push through. I always tell Deanna, whenever we hit something that's hard, I said, we'll make it through. We always do. One way or another, we figure it out. I said, there's no quitting. We don't ever quit. We just figure it out one way or another. You know, it may not be what we thought it was going to be, but we figure it out. So I'm thankful for those kinds of things. You know, I think that, you know, without getting too political, I think that we are in for a much better future than we have had in the last few years. So I'm excited about that for the first time in a long time. Like when I go places and I talk to people, I feel like there's a positive energy, especially living outside of DC. There's a lot of that shit around here all over the place. It's something that you're smacked in the face with daily. So, you know, it's a completely different feel right now than it was a month ago. So, it's exciting. It's encouraging. So I'm thankful. Again, I'm thankful for the struggles that we've had the last few years, because I think it's going to really make us appreciate what we got coming up, you know? And I think that, like, for me, I know I mentioned this to Jamie in my check-in the other day, like we made some pretty significant decisions for next year, which I'm not going to talk about yet, but they're coming, and you guys will find out sooner or later. But I'm excited for them. They're gonna be good. They're gonna be good. So, you know, everything leads to something else. So it's been an interesting year, but it's been good, and I'm really excited for the future more than anything else. So
growing year for both of us.
Yeah. 100%.
Even if it's forcing you to grow in ways that you weren't expecting, but 100%. You know, going through that and the pain of making those decisions or being comfortable in, you know, the way an event was, or the place you were living, and then, you know, completely stepping outside of yourself, you'll look back on that a year from 2 years from now and be like, wow, that was really tough at the time, but this is even better than I expected, you know. And it's risk, you know, like anything, it's risk, and hoping that you're making the best decision based off of, you know, your experience and the feedback that you get from the people that you're serving. And at the end of the day, that's all you could do is continue to try to take those risks and do it with the best foot forward, you know, and knowing that you're trying to do right by your people. That's the best that you can do.
And that's what I tell people too. It's like, it may not be the right decision at the end of the day. It may have been the wrong one, but if you went into it with the right intentions, That's what matters.
Yeah.
As long as you go into it with the right intentions and the right thought process behind it, that's what really matters, because it will manifest in a positive way as long as you went at it from a positive place. You know, it may not seem like it right now, but it will. It will. You know, it always does. You know, the only time it doesn't is when you don't wake up the next day. You know, so we just got to keep pushing forward. That's all we can do. So it's again, I keep going back to, it's just so funny living in this area, the vibe change of everything, right? Like it's been good. It's been a really positive experience the last month. I'm like,
no, I agree. I've seen it too. I was seeing it like on consult calls going into the election and stuff too. You know, a lot of people were on edge, and whatever the decision was, I think people are just optimistic for a change, in any direction, and hopeful. So, God bless our country, God bless. And it, at the end of the day, it comes down to us too. And, being kind human beings and the way that we carry ourselves day to day too, it's just, you never know what someone's going through. Like this woman, in Dan's office, like you never know.
Absolutely. Yeah. It starts to put things into perspective with that. So on that note too, so yesterday, Dan and Elvis, my dog, they were outside playing. And they come inside, and Dan's just sitting there on the couch, and I noticed Elvis is limping. I was like, what do you do? And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, Elvis is limping. He goes, he is? I said, yeah, look at him. He's limping. He's like limping on his front paw. And I was like, you guys were just outside, right? He's like, yeah, he was fine. We were just playing. We were running around, tossing the sticks. We were fine. What's wrong? And Dan is like, I called him yesterday. I called him Dr. Doolittle Google, because he gets on Google and Googles everything. I was like, so you're Dr. Doolittle Google today. So I was like, listen, he just stubbed his toe or something. He'll be fine. He's like, I'm like, he's not really injured. I'm like, Dan went over and like patted on him, and he wasn't like wincing in pain or anything like that. I was like, he just stubbed his toe. He's fine. He's a big boy. So we're sitting there, and again, he's Googling what it could possibly be, right? And I see Dan getting all teared up. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, he just stubbed his toe. He's going to be fine. He's like, he's getting old. He's getting old, and I know how dads are. And when one thing goes, everything goes. And I'm like, Dan, you were roughhousing outside. He just stubbed his toe. He's going to be fine. I was like, he's a big boy. He'll be okay. So gave him a painkiller later that night, and then like he was fine the rest of the night. He's been fine all day today. I said, see, he's completely fine. But I was just laughing I was like, Dan, I was like, you're tearing up over him stubbing his toe. I was like, you would be terrible as a father. I was God. There's no way.
I look at Oliver's face is like white now, and he's like 7, and I'm like, I'm going to miss the fuck out of you when something happens to you. And Drew always says it all the time too. He like looks at him. He's like, what are we going to do when he's gone? I'm like, don't even talk about that.
It's so hard with the yellow labs, because you don't see them going gray.
Right.
They're just already that color. So it's like when they start having health issues, it's already too late. Right. We have this joke with Elvis that he's forever 3, because we got him when he was 3. And a couple of years later, we had the vet over, and she asked, we had the mobile vet, the vet over, and she asked how old he was. And Dan just goes, he's 3. I was like, Dan, we've had him for like 3 years, and he was 3 when we got him. I was like, he's not 3. He's not 3. So we always have this joke of he's forever 3, when in reality, he's like 13 at this point.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
You wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it to look at him at all. You wouldn't know it to
amazing.
Look at him at all. And he's had no health, like, I'm knocking on wood. He's had no health problems other than stubbing his toe. But it's just like, just going back to it just goes by like that. And it's just like, where did the 12, 13 years go? Like, where did they go? Where did they go? I
mean, even this year, like, I'm like, oh my God, it's almost over. Like, it's just time flies. It really does.
Yeah, it does. I'm like, how am I 43? How the fuck am I 43 years old? Where did that go? Like,
I was just 20. What happened?
I don't feel 43. I was like, and then my knees crack when I try to do my posing. I'm like,
the weather.
There it is. I'm like, it's gonna rain today. I can feel it in my knees.
Oh man.
Back in my day. That's the Jamie and Greg thing. Back in my day.
God, if I had quarters every time we said that.
I know, right? Oh, but anyway, so yeah, I'm just thankful for everything, regardless. Like, life itself, it's beautiful. Whether it's good, bad, ugly, it's still beautiful. It doesn't matter. Like, we're here. We're above ground. That's better than most people can say at this point. You know what I mean? So
totally.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a good place to start. That was we always have these podcasts where we're like, we're going to talk about this, and we go on these completely different roundabout and talk about chargebacks and shit.
It is the holiday season with lots of shopping happening.
Right? Think about that when you go to buy all your Black Friday sales and stuff like that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, which we have a big Black Friday sale for my company. It's our last big Black Friday. We've stopped doing all of our big sales. This is the last time we're doing this. So if anybody wants to, so we're doing buy one, get two free, plus a bunch of bonuses and stuff too. So get on the list for that. Do you guys have any specials going on?
Nope.
You're like, no.
Get your ass in the gym.
Just go to the gym.
Train.
Just train.
Just train.
Okay, cool. I want to give you an opportunity to say something.
No.
All right, cool. Well, then just buy stuff from me then. Cool.
Listen, I pay for like $300 per person for the same gym that I have in Florida out in Arizona, and my top tier membership is $40 a month. So it is very, very discounted in Florida.
Yeah. Florida's
crazy.
Well, yeah, I thankfully I have a gym in the backyard, and then the shop gym sponsors me too, so I don't have to pay a gym membership there either. So
bless.
I know, thank God. Yep.
I see that credit card charge when you're a gym owner. You're like, but
I get it. Yeah. Understand. Same thing with coaching. It's like, okay, I coach, but then I have to pay for my coaching too. So
I'm just like everybody else.
It's like in one door, out the other.
Exactly.
There it goes.
Exactly. Yeah.
And on that note, go enjoy your Thanksgiving dinner, you guys. Enjoy it however you feel fit. If you are in prep, stick to your plan. If you're not, figure out a plan ahead of time that's going to work best for you. That's the best thing you can do. Figure it out now. Talk to your coach, ask them what they want you to do, have a conversation, all those kinds of things, so that you're prepared to go into that situation and don't feel like you're getting overwhelmed by all the choices and things like that too.
Correct.
All right, guys. Have a great rest of your week. And this is episode 66. So like, comment, subscribe. We here at Behind the Bikini are super thankful for you and listening to everything every week and all of your comments. We do listen to and pay attention to all that stuff too, because that's how we come up with a lot of these topics for you guys, as we mentioned before. So please feel free to comment some things that you'd like us to talk about. We do pay attention to that stuff. That's it. Anything else you want to say before we sign out for today?
Happy Turkey Day.
Happy Turkey Day! That's a good That's our screenshot. That's our screenshot. I love it. Fantastic. We got our screenshot for the thumbnail right there. All right, guys. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time.